If you had the pleasure of enjoying the day off, I hope that you have made it a wonderful day. And I'm really grateful that you're making Shelf Discovery a part of it. This is an interactive program, as I say every week. And the interaction starts when you let me know that you're here. And the way I know you're here is by your posting something in the chat. And we'll give a few moments for people to join us. But again, I'm really glad you're here. I'm excited tonight to be exploring the pages of one of my most favored books, truly. Hey, Nancy, nice to see you too. And it was great to see you yesterday. Hi, Pam, glad you're here. Happy Monday to you as well. It brings such joy to my heart to see all of you showing up for Shelf Discovery tonight. Hi, Russell. I'm doing very well today, even though yesterday was quite a day and the whole weekend was quite a weekend. Hi, Jason. Well, you're off today, but I know you're not really off today because I've seen you doing some Unity on the Bay productivity, as have I. But anyway, I'm glad you're here tonight. Geeta, my love. So happy you're here, my dear. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I just had this flashback. Most of you probably don't even remember the show called Gomer Pyle. This was years ago. It starred Jim Nabors, and he always used to say, "Welcome, welcome, welcome." That's a very poor imitation of his voice, but anyway, glad you're here. All right, back to serious business, or back to fun, actually. We are going to explore tonight and next week one of absolutely positively my favorite books. You remember that show, do you, Pam? Jason, definitely not. Well, this is beautiful. We have a diversity of generations amongst us. Juan Del Hierro, good evening, my friend. Happy President's Day and congratulations. Yesterday was a beautiful day at Unity on the Bay. If you're not aware, we made a couple of really important announcements to our spiritual community. I think most of the people, from what I can tell here, are probably aware that I announced my retirement effective at the end of October of this year so that I can move back to Kansas City, Missouri. And the snow and the winter and the love and the warmth and the embrace of family. So that was a big announcement. And also, I love you too, Juan. That's exactly why I picked this book. It's like, all right, it's not the first time I've read through this book. Now I got confused because I didn't tell you the other big announcement that we made yesterday was that the one and only Reverend Juan Del Hierro is going to assume the position of Senior Minister of Unity on the Bay, a momentous occasion, well-deserved from a man who has been with our community for very nearly 20 years and been in my life for about 16 of those. And I tell you, we are in good hands. The universe has set our community up for great things. Hi, Sandra. Glad you're here. Yeah, it is sad, Geeta. A few people I've talked to, I think it was Juan yesterday that mentioned it's a combination of, and Jason referred to it as bittersweet, which it is. And it is going to show us that we have the capacity to hold a huge variety of emotions all at the same time. And Pam says, I wondered why you are going in the fall, winter to KC instead of the summer. That is a profoundly significant question, Pam, and all I can say is I don't know. You know, this whole thing, my friends, is just like every dimension and experience in our lives. We are part of a cosmic setup. I sometimes refer to it as a cosmic conspiracy. And the best thing we can do, and you all know this in the midst of this, is to continue to develop our capacity to maintain awareness of our oneness with God and listen to that voice. And when it listens, summer, winter, fall, or spring, it is best for us to follow. Yes, Juan. Well, we are blessed by this process, and we are grateful, very grateful that you're here and that our community is in good hands as we move toward the future. And Linda, good evening, Linda. I'm happy you're here. And Pam, yes, it certainly felt right to me, and I'm glad that it did to you. So, yeah, we are, as I keep saying here, delving tonight and next week into one of my absolute favorite books of all times. This is called Finding Yourself in Transition by Unity Minister Robert Brummet. And all I can say about this book is that it has been by my side since 1990. When I went through one of the ones, as I remember the last time we read the book together was when we moved to Temple, Israel. And of course, it was the week of going into the void. Boy, yeah, we have had a lot of shared experiences. And many of those, Linda, boy, you are all up and at 'em tonight. This is what all great teachers do. They train others and depart. Ah, well, thank you for that compliment. What I just know, is it's time. It's time. And I haven't orchestrated much of my life, but I always seem to know when it's time, for which I'm deeply grateful, because one doesn't want to stay past their time in any particular situation or position in life. And we always want to be open to the guidance of and the inspiration of Spirit, which is truly what I'm doing. If it had not been that clear, this past weekend would have been much more challenging than it was. But when you know that something is right, it brings with it's accompanied by a tremendous sense of power, and you know that you're going to be given everything that you need to find your direction and to move to the next plateau. And I do think of it as like a plateau, like the next state of mind, state of consciousness, physical destination that life is holding for us. And the reality is, my friends, whether we like it or not, or whether we want to admit it or not, life is in a constant state of change. And that's why this book has been so valuable to me. As I said, I first came across it in 1990, and that's when I was going through the darkest night of my soul of my life. It was my ultimate divorce from my wife, Karen, and the what appeared to me to be the disillusionment of my family, which in fact was not the case. But it wasn't until I read this book that I realized there is a way to understand change and to work through it. And once you understand that way, once you can understand what's really going on when a change or an ending comes up in your life, it is so helpful to realize it's part of a process. And if you can, accept the process and see it as an adventure and an opportunity rather than a failure or a finality to it, it makes the process acres easier. Pam, I hope you continue some kind of talks so we can still learn. Well, bless your heart, Pam. We'll see what the universe has in store. All I know right now, the only instruction is time to leave Miami, time to go to Kansas City, and time to watch in wonder as Unity on the Bay, under Reverend Juan's leadership and our board and our staff and everybody, takes the next step forward in faith. So here it is, Finding Yourself in Transition. And before we get into the part we're going to be discussing tonight, and you might be able to figure why I chose this book for the next couple of weeks, it is because, like Juan, I'm actually using it as my manual for navigating this process of change that I'm going through. But what he does in here is he describes a process called the Rite of Passage. And the Rite of Passage, well, let me just go ahead and start reading. First, he says, each transition begins with an ending. I said yesterday in my words that I shared, my many words that I shared at Unity on the Bay, every new beginning starts with an end. It is so important to remember that when you are facing an ending in life. It is not actually an end. It is ultimately the means by which you arrive at a new beginning. He says, each transition begins with an ending. Change means letting go of the old before we are able to embrace the new. So the first stage of the transition process is endings. Thank you, Pam. When my great nephew moves from Australia to LA, I'm moving as well. I don't very often come right out and say, if you don't have this book, get it. But I feel so firmly about the support this book has given me that I am saying that tonight. If you don't have it, Pam, it's maybe you do. Maybe you already told me that you do. But it's a phenomenal manual for managing change in life. So the first stage of the transition process is endings. He says, many of us would like to believe that the stage of endings is followed by a new beginning. It is not. The next stage is called the void. This stage is characterized by a feeling of emptiness and a sense of wandering in the wilderness. Finally, we come to the last stage, which is that of new beginnings. Thank you, Gita. The author is Robert Brummet. He's a Unity minister and a brilliant one, if I do say so myself. He's written a couple of other books, but this one just truly has become one of my Bibles. So here we are with this change process, realizing that change is a process by which life moves forward. And we cannot, in fact, I'm trying to remember specifically in meditation one morning when I was praying so fervently about this change in my retirement. And it was, you cannot move into the future based solely on the past. In other words, the past cannot take you into the future. And sometimes we try to make it take us into the future, but it really isn't the best vehicle, because the reality is if you're in the past, you're in the past and you're not in the present moment. If you're in the present moment, you are then best situated to move yourself into the future of your desires and your dreams. Robert Brummet. Let's get back to what he has to say here on the rite of passage. And again, the rite of passage is this process he just described of transition, which starts with an end, as odd as that may seem. The new beginning starts with an end, then moves into a state of void, wilderness, living in the question mark, and then we arrive finally at the new beginning. He says the three stages of the transition process, endings, the void, new beginnings, parallel an ancient ritual known as a rite of passage. A rite of passage consists of a ritual in which the initiate undergoes a symbolic death and rebirth, ending one phase of his or her life experience and beginning another. Anthropologists have recognized that each rite of passage has three stages: a separation phase in which the initiate is removed from the old order and undergoes a symbolic death, an initiation phase in which the individual is then sent away from the tribe or village to confront and to experience the purpose and meaning of his existence, and finally a return phase in which the individual is reintegrated back into the social order as a totally new person. Jason says, is there a void in every transition? I haven't always experienced it during change. Thank you, Jason. And I really want you to, I want you to share tonight, because I would ask the question, have any of you ever been through a rite of passage? But I know better, because you really can't be on the planet very long without having that experience. Is there always a void? I think it depends. I think there is always a void. But I think the magnitude of that void depends on many things. I think it depends on the magnitude of the change or the transition that one is moving through. And I also think it depends on how much we recognize this process, because the void is usually prolonged by a lack of awareness of the process, of the rite of passage or this initiation. If you have an ending in your life and you don't realize that it's the start of a new beginning, the void can be very, very long. The longest void I ever had in my life was the one that I experienced, as I said, when I first picked up this book. And that was in 1990, when it seemed like the world was falling apart, because that was before I realized that the world as I perceive it must fall apart before I'm able to grasp the vision of the future. And fall apart might be a little bit of a strong term, but again, the past, what has been, cannot carry us into the future. So I don't think I think there is a void, Jason, but and this is just my perspective. I welcome your thoughts. Maybe you have been through some significant changes or transitions in your life and you don't recall having the void, or maybe just let's get into this, because I think it's of immense value. Also, when we leave a belief system, there are some serious voids. Whoa, mama. That's so true. Because ultimately, thank you, Jason. You always ask great questions. Ultimately, any change, I believe, is brought to pass by a change in our belief system. I mentioned yesterday, this change in me in particular, for me in particular, came from, I want to catch this here before it's off my screen. Juan says, Jason's question. See, I haven't figured out here how to make sure I don't lose the questions. Jason's question made me think of this. Sometimes we actually don't really know what the... Jason, I wish you were here so you could teach me how to scan down the comments when I can't. But I'll move on. I'm sorry, Juan. I just lost you in the bottom of my chat. Nancy, thank you, Nancy. I've been told to pay attention to spaces of voids, even the spaces between breaths, between words. The spaces between music and the space between objects can be openings to connect deeply with spirit, as can everything. I was thinking that it can relate to your service yesterday. Yeah, absolutely. The void is actually, I believe, I said this yesterday, our most natural state of being. It doesn't feel that way because we're operating, remember, out of a conditioned consciousness, a conditioned awareness, wherein we really believe that our security in life comes from things that are outside of us. And that's a belief in itself, Jason, that once it's changed can throw you into a void. But the idea is that as we mature spiritually, as we awaken, we begin to recognize this void is a natural state of being. It's a state in which nothing is predicted, in which nothing is assumed. Speaking of the book that we just came out of with Don Miguel Ruiz, nothing is recognized to be a source of security truly upon our journey, that our strength and our security comes from within us. And it's in those moments when I have stood in the void where I have come closest to really recognizing that. It depends, Russell says, on the individual. Whoa, man, you're all going really fast tonight. I can't keep up with this. Help me. The struggling of the old patterns. Yes, the stripping of the old patterns. And they cling tightly, don't they? Jason's comment. Jason's question made me think, I can't keep up. This is the first time on Shelf Discovery that I haven't been able to keep up with all of you. So I'm going to Gita forward, a copy of Reverend Juan for you. Juan Del Hierro, Jason's question made me think of this. Sometimes we actually don't really know what the beginning is. For example, my moving from one house to the next, we might think the beginning is moving into the new house, when that may be the void until we experience. Yeah, all right. This is a really good point that actually is addressed by Brummett in the pages of this book, when he says that for the sake of clarification and communication, we have taken this rite of passage and the process of transition and divided it into three categorizations: the ending, the void, the beginning. But the reality is that we are all right now in this moment and in every moment engaged in all manner of endings, voids, and beginnings. And they're happening concurrently in many ways. So all we're doing here is pulling it out for a moment and trying to articulate it in a way that can give us understanding. And then we go right back into realizing it's all happening simultaneously. Right now, in every moment, there's a cell in your body that's ending. There's some dimension of your physical of your physical body and presence that's going through a void. This is multi-level and multifaceted, happening on really every level of our being, constantly. Hi, Christina. Never late, always on time. Perfect. I'm glad you're here. Yesterday was 2/20/2022. Perfect alignment, frontward and backward. And so no surprise that you announced that yesterday. Yeah, I saw that somewhere, like on a Facebook post or something. And I thought, well, that's so very interesting, because this whole time frame has been adjusted and readjusted on many occasions, based on my own personal understandings and revelation, and also based on, the needs and the schedules at Unity on the Bay. And yet there's no question in my mind that it was perfectly orchestrated. Nancy, replying to Juan del Hierro, does the book talk about the ultimate transition, the transition of a loved one or our own? Yes, it does. There's a whole piece toward the end of it, I believe. I've read this book so many times. Yeah, I think it's called The Plan Unfolds at the end. But it definitely does address that. It also addresses how we have this consciousness, perhaps you've noticed, that dreads an ending and gets excited over a new beginning, and typically dreads the void, because who likes to wander in the wilderness without knowing? So this is part of, talk about releasing an old belief system. It's about redefining our idea of what an ending is and what living in mystery is. Jason, I think if we are all God experiencing itself, change has to happen constantly so that God can experience the infinity of what it is. Infinite combinations, infinite outcomes, infinite possibilities. Change allows this. Thank you, Jason, for those wise words. Change does allow it. Change encourages it. Change enforces it. And one of the reasons I think why it's difficult for us to embrace change is because it's difficult for us to embrace infinity. You know, from where we are in our conditioned mindset, it's like this is the way it is. And some of us carry a lot of certainty around believing we know the way it is, we know the way it's been and the way it needs to be. Well, when you start looking toward embracing the infinite, it will sort of bust is the word that's coming to mind, or break us out of old ways of being, old ways of thinking. And I believe that every change, just to reiterate this, that we ever go through in our life is about that in one way or another. It's about a shift in mindset, a shift in consciousness. Thank you, Jason. Nancy, replying to Jason Weeks, are we like the lunar modules expanding cosmic consciousness through our new experiences? Wow, you are taking this off tonight. This is awesome. I actually think it's very similar, Nancy, and I love and appreciate the depth of your understanding and your wisdom. I wanted, before we wrap this up, we have a few more minutes. I wanted to go through this delineation just to give us an idea of the ingredients of the ending, because that's what I'm supposed to be talking about tonight, but actually we are talking about it. We're talking about the process. And the reality is I'll probably come back to this book again at least a few times between now and October for my own sanity and well-being, as well as perhaps for yours. But we talks about here that when you're going through an ending, you're going to have some experiences. One of them is disengagement. That is the release of what once existed. Anybody had an experience where they went through a change, fully conscious and aware of this rite of passage experience, of this process of change? That's the first piece of the ending, just disengaging or releasing that which once existed. And of course, that's challenging to say the least. This is where our faith comes in, folks. And this is where our personal relationship with our own I'll say original being is so important, because to maintain that communication is everything in terms of peace of mind, whether it's the end that you're engaged in, the void, or the beginning. It can be very hard because nobody likes to uproot their life or their belief system. Yes, Gita says right now. I know you are, dear Gita, and I guarantee you everybody on this broadcast tonight is holding you in prayer. You're going through some significant changes in life. And I'm sure you can probably relate to this idea that there's been some disengagement or pulling away from that which was once familiar. Disidentification, he says, which is disengagement. Disengagement is primarily an external process, disengaging from the familiar around and about you, whereas disidentification is an internal process. He says one of the very strongest tendencies of a human being is to seek to maintain one's sense of identity. When we live with our identity on the outside, we will attempt to control our environment in order to protect this identity. Yet, when we are willing to let go of this cherished identity and to face our fear of the unknown, our fear of annihilation, and see beyond it, we enter into the experience of becoming who we really are. And who we really are already is more than we could ever imagine. Let's see what's going on here. Linda, yes, I am living in the void, uncertainty. So I take some actions, not knowing if or where it will lead, but I'm done just sitting and waiting. Awesome. And hopefully, dear Linda, those actions will be prompted by your own internal guidance, realizing that internal guidance shows up in a myriad of ways. In this particular case, the change I'm going through was about an internal voice that called to me. But you can get signs and wonders in many ways that will direct you on the path. Jason, by the way, everyone, if you want to make a donation tonight, there is a specific link that we created a few weeks ago. You asked for it. Here it is. Thank you, Jason. And thanks for responding to that call. Glenn Charles, good Lord, I haven't seen you in 100 years, but I'm really glad you're here tonight and a part of Shelf Discovery. Gita, the void brings us to the up-leveling through the void brings us to the up-leveling, though. The expansion has to happen. Yes, it does. It opens us up to that field of infinite possibilities, Gita. And Geraldo, you will be missed, Reverend Chris. All the best to you. I see you continuing to do great things. I'm also to hear Reverend Juan will become the new senior minister. Congrats, Reverend Juan. Amen to that. All right. Thank you, Gerardo. So we have that. We have another one of the processes of the ending, which is disenchantment, where our assumptions are challenged. We talked quite a bit about assumptions with Don Miguel Ruiz. You see, really, during this process, when something is coming to an end or a conclusion, all of the loose ends, so to speak, within us sort of rise to the occasion. Oh, thanks, Glenn. I can't wait for it either. I sort of set myself up, didn't I? Hey, Cookie, I love you too. Thank you for your good wishes. Just want to cover the other ones here. Disorientation, which is to be confused or to lose one's sense of direction, time, or perspective. All of these are aspects of the ending. And again, I really recommend this book, and I know we'll come back to it. I'm kind of rushing through it in 30 minutes tonight and 30 minutes next week. But I think sometimes we don't really honor the process of change in our life. And that's the word that I want to leave with you tonight. That change it really is a sacred and beautiful thing. And it's so helpful and less stressful if we can recognize what's really going on here. And that it is going on an ongoing basis in every single instant of our life experience, my friends. Sometimes on a larger scale in the realm of appearances, and sometimes on a smaller scale. But it's natural. And you and I have been designed to not only live and survive through an ending, but to embrace the ending as it occurs. Whatever that may bring, I've had moments of intense grief over the change that I am looking at making. Also intense anticipation and excitement. Again, the whole host of emotions. And what I'm trying to do, like whenever an emotion comes up, I'm just trying to acknowledge that it's there. I'm trying to allow myself to experience it fully so that it passes through me and that it doesn't get stuck or stalled anywhere inside of me, because I really do believe that unresolved or unexpressed or unexperienced emotional states don't promote health. And I want to stay healthy because I want to have many years left on this planet. So just having whatever it is, a guide, this book, Finding Yourself in Transition, Robert Brummet, it's a unity book. I was going to say you need to, and I don't like to ever tell you need anything, but we all can use help and support as we move through this constantly evolving experience that we call life. What if you hold on to the past? Hey, Glenn, we all do that to one degree or another. The only thing I can say is to do our best to call upon our own internal resources to help us release the past. And that is a huge part of the spiritual journey, my friends, living in the present moment. And again, we're designed for this. So when we're operating in the past or trying to forecast the future, we're not operating as we're designed to operate. We are present moment, here and now beings. It's simply that we've forgotten that. We don't have confidence in it, but it's the truth nonetheless, and any change can help us to begin to realize that. And Unity on the Bay, thank you. I'm honored and grateful. We will move through some of this void together, leaning on each other. Amen. Unity on the Bay, and amen to Reverend Juan del Hierro. I mean, we really are in good hands. It's wonderful to be able to see signs that bring you confidence in the future, in experiences of letting go. Eye on the prize, family, Ashland. Thank you, Pam. My eye is definitely on the prize, and I am looking forward to that. Let's see. Pam. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Pam. Gita, what does the Bible say about goddesses? Goddess Nut, is the goddess of the unknown, that time of void. Well, I don't know. I think probably what the Bible says, Gita, is rather limited, because the Bible doesn't give very much credence or airtime to the feminine nature, in my humble opinion. Sought to state that without too much judgment. You are so wise. Well, thank you, Nancy. I appreciate you too. And let me assure you that whatever wisdom you are experiencing from me tonight, or in any moment that we are together, is your own wisdom. Because how many times have we said on this program at Unity on the Bay, our life is an external outpicturing of an internal condition. So when we find people that we love and appreciate in our lives, it is most assuredly because of the love and the appreciation and the gratitude that we hold in our own hearts. Yesterday, when I was a part of that extraordinary Sunday celebration at Unity on the Bay, my heart was overflowing with love, and I was grateful to know that love is not going anywhere. And at the end of the day, in fact, it is the only thing that endures. I send you my love tonight as we wrap up another wonderful evening together. I love and appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. And you know, this bond that we share, it ain't going nowhere, friends. We will always be connected in spirit. And we have 8 months ahead of us to enjoy each other's company, to celebrate Juan's arrival in his new role and responsibility at Unity on the Bay, and keep on believing in the incredible power of spiritual community that is represented at Unity on the Bay. Have a wonderful evening. Happy President's Day. Wonderful. So happy to have you all here. And I'll see you again as we tackle a few more paragraphs from Finding Yourself in Transition. Have a wonderful evening, my friends. Much love.